There was no product that would do what the traditional Kava was doing for Cameron, and we thought, let's see what we can do.
So we have a phrase that we use in the functional medicine world in our doctors network, where I kind of got my start in the health and wellness world, and it's from pain to purpose. That statement kind of encapsulates probably the last 15 years of my life. The biggest blessings in your life, the most transformative things that shape the trajectory of your life, come packaged as your worst nightmare, and you don't realize it in the moment, but it turns into this amazing thing. And basically, I had a total collapse of my health in my early 20s. I was a high-functioning track and field athlete, working multiple jobs, had a normal, basically what I thought was normal level of function. Turns out I had a lot of predispositions and a lot of, functional deficiencies, right, that were suboptimal that had just become normalized. People like me are sort of like what we call the canaries in the coal mine, that whole analogy of the canary brought down in the coal mine. The canary dies first when the air quality gets too bad, but really it's coming for everybody, right? A little bit post that, I started to develop what I considered to be debilitating chronic fatigue, anxiety, depression, and just inability to function. It started kind of slow, and I'm the kind of person that's just gonna push the pedal harder, right, to the ground, right, as things start to get dysfunctional. I kind of normalized it over and over, and I kind of grew up in a time, maybe in a place in the country that's not the most progressive when it comes to health and wellness, right? I'm from the South, right? We're from Arkansas. And so all I had access to was standard allopathic medicine.
After 2010, when Cameron was having so many health difficulties, our main concern, his mother and I, was to get his health back. We went through a time where we didn't know if he was ever going to be able to be self-sufficient. And anyone who's had any family member who's had any kind of a challenge, a disability, you eventually get to that point in your life where you start thinking, wow, this is the way it's going to look for the rest of our lives. So just trying to keep a good attitude. As we were learning from all of the people we were talking to, and positive attitude is so important. You also have to give the body the opportunity to rebuild itself in the right way.
And so I ended up in the situation where I'm totally dysfunctional, couldn't get off the couch, and it got to a point where it was okay, I'm not a lazy person by nature, and so everybody knew that. They knew that something was really wrong with me. But it was this slow descent. So I ended up just dysfunctional enough. So I ended up in a psychiatrist's office where I was prescribed a whole cocktail, the works, right? Adderall, Ritalin, that kind of stuff. That was the main stuff. It was amphetamine-based antidepressants and benzodiazepine drugs on the anxiety front. So I ended up on this cocktail of drugs, which immediately seemed to be miraculous, right? Because all of a sudden, I'm functioning, right? Temporarily. What I didn't realize was that, the mentality that it put me in was completely not myself at all. It just degenerated my life rapidly. And as far as my behavior, as far as my relationships, my friendships, my, everything kind of crumbled around me, long story short. And I ended up a shell of a human being. But I ended up basically, chronically very, very ill, and had all this damage to my body and brain from all these pharmaceuticals and this consistent drug use on top of an already fragile system. So I ended up my life basically completely decimated. I got to a point where I couldn't function at all because the drugs were just a temporary band-aid that got me back out there, but then there's sort of a toxic band-aid, I would say, a band-aid lined with sandpaper, right? It covers up the problem and then it makes it deeper the longer that you got it on. So ended up having to move back in with my parents. I had to go off of the drugs. Eventually they lost their effectiveness, and I had crazy cognitive deficits on top of severe depression. Now I was dealing with something that was undeniably physical. That's not even possible that it's in my head, because I started developing all kinds of crazy gut issues and crazy, autoimmune sensitivities and food intolerances. And so it was kind of this kind of crumbling of my health, which led to the next 8 to 10 years, the starting of what would become an odyssey, right? Where I was totally dysfunctional and my life was essentially over before it even started, it seemed like, And we ended up engaging in medical tourism. I ended up, spending the next 8 years or so just doing nothing all day but scouring medical and scientific literature to try to figure out, first of all, what had happened? How did my health deteriorate? What is health? What creates health? And I chose this philosophy of better living through symptom management instead of trying to find root cause, and that was the pharmaceutical route. And why did the standard medical route make me not only not help me, but it actually like poisoned me, made me way worse, as I came to find out. So I say all that because that was a core philosophical shift that sort of led to me going, sort of venturing off into the functional medicine route to try to figure out, okay, what is health first of all, because I've never really been taught that, and how do you rebuild a body? How do you rebuild a brain?
We met so many doctors that were just ingenious with the way they were treating getting back to health, not just treating symptoms. And that was intriguing for us. And when things started working and Cameron started getting better, we still had no thought of doing this as a business. I mean, I'd been working for 35, 40 years in banking and marketing and advertising, and didn't think that that was in the cards to start a business. I remember at one point in my life, I said all I wanted to do was get a paycheck every week and let somebody else worry about, how the business runs and how to keep it alive. But as we progressed through Cameron's rehealth, as I call it, and realizing what this wonderful plant could do, that did for him, I don't remember exactly when it was, but we were just kind of thinking, there's got to be a better way than having to massage a bag of wet roots for 30, 45 minutes just to get this effect every time you need it. Because how many people are out there in this world today, in the United States alone, that can't do this for themselves?
And so I was like, yeah, no, I know Kava. I thought I knew Kava, right? Because I had seen it in the United States, of course, and tried it, in this extract form, this Kava that a lot of people think is real Kava. And so I said, yeah, I tried it, but it was like trying to shoot a BB gun at a freight train to stop it or something, It was like, it was just not enough. It was like chamomile tea. He kind of laughed a little bit. He's like, dude, that's not real Kava. That's like an insult to us. That's like that's like an Americanized kind of like shade of what Kava. It's from the Kava plant, but it's just cut down into almost nothing. Because I read all this information, all this historical context of like Kava, like where it was from. It's from the South Pacific Islands, and the whole culture's built around it, and they have 20 times as many Kava bars as they have regular bars, and it creates these amazing, and they talked about, they use it for weddings and funerals and spiritual ceremonies, social gatherings. But then whenever I tried the capsule, I just like, that's some BS marketing hype. Like that's some, like, who the hell? And so when he said that, it made sense to me. I just never thought about it because I'm like, yeah, that's, of course, like that's not real Kava, because the way that it was written about, there's not that much of a cultural heritage around something. So I mean, we're just downing like huge amounts of this stuff, like whenever I could tolerate it, and not really expecting a whole lot, but just kind of desperate for anything and seeing if I get anything from it. And literally within like 2 weeks or so, the effects build up, because that's how it works. It kind of wakes up the system, and there's a cumulative effect. And so all of a sudden, like overnight, I could eat like all foods again. So it wasn't like, it's not like, there is no magic bullet that does everything in a chronic disease like this, but it was a tremendous leverage tool that allowed me to have this window that in that situation, it saved my life, right? All of a sudden I could eat food again, and I could do that. So it gave me that ability. So long story short, I now discovered a tool.
And there was no product that would do what the traditional Kava was doing for Cameron. And we thought, let's see what we can do.